Welcome to a special edition of the Cardinals podcast, the holiday edition. Rob Raines here, STLSportsPage.com, and I'm joined by a couple of people that at least are familiar to me. I'm not sure how familiar they are to Cardinal fans, but they've got a lot of opinions about Cardinal discussions. Joined by my sons, BJ Raines and Mike Raines. Guys, thanks for joining us.
It's great to be here.
Yeah, I'm excited to finally make it to the historic, legendary STL Sports Page studios here. So thanks for having us on, and home for Christmas. And we're talking baseball anyway at the dinner table. We said let's start recording and see what comes out.
Exactly. So we have a lot of questions. We're going to bounce off of these guys in the next few minutes as we talk about the Cardinals. And I think one thing that we can all agree on is that we were kind of excited about some of the moves the Cardinals have made early on in the off season, but hoping for one more maybe starting pitcher under the tree for Christmas, but we didn't get that. So
yes,
move on.
Keep going. We're not done yet. Come on. I mean, Lance Lynn, it's fine. Kyle Gibson, that's fine. But Sonny Gray, where that's a little better. But one more, get Steven Matz to the bullpen. I'd feel great about this rotation. If you get one more, I don't know. I'm not thinking it's going to be a Snell. Would love to see a Montgomery, or if you can get a Cease maybe. But Mike, you probably know more than me. Who else is out there better than me? But if you could get one more, I'd feel great.
Can we get someone younger? The average age of the starting rotation is what, 35?
It is.
What are we doing here?
So did it come down or go up with Waino now removed?
It went up.
You take out a 42-year-old and the rotation goes up. That's actually pretty funny. But, you're not expecting Michaelis to be as bad, are you, next year?
No. Well, you can't be. I mean, he has to be better, or you're still going to be in the same boat that you were in. I mean, when you look at the replacements that they made, I think Sonny Gray is a good pitcher, but is he really better than Jordan Montgomery was before he left the team in the trade at August 1st?
I think the difference you picked up is when you look at Kyle Gibson, you look at Lance Lynn, you traded Dakota Hudson and Flaherty or Libator, or take your pick in that last spot, Jake Woodford. Mm-hmm. And so the strikeouts that you picked up from them on a year when your defense was not very good, does that make a difference?
Well, it's going to be interesting to find out. I want to talk specifically about the three new guys, and then we'll kind of move on to some other conversations.
Well, hold on. So who else is out there? If you're looking for another, you're saying, do you need more pitching?
I mean, I don't know, because I don't think there's anybody. To me, there's no point in making a trade that gives you another fourth or fifth starter. You've got those guys. If you're going to make a trade or sign somebody as a free agent, it almost has to be somebody who can be at the top of your rotation.
Is Dylan Cease there?
Dylan Cease is that guy, but what's it going to cost you? Who would you trade Nolan Gorman for Dylan Cease?
Probably not.
Or is it worth the risk of a younger guy like a Brian Wu or Bryce Miller, somebody like that?
What about Gilbert? What about Gilbert over in Seattle?
I think Seattle has some possibilities of guys they might trade. I think Miami has some possibilities of a couple of guys they might trade. But again, you're kind of betting again on a guy ascending to that top of the rotation level that he's not really at right now.
Yeah, I mean, I would love Montgomery back, but is he probably out of their price range? Or
I don't know. I don't think anybody's out of their price range. If they want to spend some money, they can. I don't think that the Cardinals can afford whatever they want to spend. It's just a question of will they be willing to spend it. I think Montgomery is a possibility. I think Texas would like to have him back, but they're having some financial issues with one of the bigger clubs that's uncertain about what their TV revenues are going to be for next year. So, and they've already paid a lot of money to DeGrom and to Scherzer. So I think that Montgomery is a possibility, and I think he would be a nice fit toward the top of that rotation based on how he pitched.
Do we know if Yamamoto? Do we know if they even made an offer to Yamamoto? Because I know I don't know if I should mention a competing podcast here, but I know Jim Hayes had talked to Lars Nootbaar, and he said that Lars Nootbaar thought they had a chance at him. I mean, was that something where Cardinals weren't even in the ballpark? Do you think they actually tried to get him? Or because at the beginning of the offseason, a lot of people thought he might be the guy, but I don't know if $375 million or whatever ended up being with the posting fee was just too much for them.
I think that was the problem. Well, as I say, I don't think it was necessarily too much, but it was more than they wanted to spend. I think they did have conversations. I think they were definitely interested in Yamamoto. Whether they actually made a formal offer or not, I don't know. But I suspect that if they did, it would be significantly under what he ended up getting. Offering three, he got three. We know guaranteed 3 offers of $300 or more million, and I just don't see the Cardinals doing that for anybody. But as good as Yamamoto would have been, I think we all would have loved to have had him. I kind of understand the financial part of that the Cardinals weren't willing to go that.
So you're still expecting at least one more addition
so.
to the pitching staff, whether it's bullpen or starter?
Well, I definitely think they have to have some additions to the bullpen. I think the guys that they've got will be an upgrade over the starting rotation from a year ago for one main reason, because I think you're expecting them to pitch more innings. And if they pitch more innings on a regular basis, that's going to make the bullpen better.
You're also banking on them staying healthy.
You also are banking on them staying healthy.
Which they do every year with Steven Matz, and the same thing happens. I mean, the stats may prove otherwise, but it just seems like he has done better in the bullpen. It seems like he's been more effective out there, and that's why if you want to strengthen your bullpen, I say get one more starter and move Matz to the bullpen. I mean, I know, it's an $11 million bullpen arm. That's expensive. I get it, but I don't know. I just feel like banking, this is exactly, they'd be in the exact same position this year as they were last year, banking on these guys to all stay healthy. And I mean, who's the sixth starter right now?
I would say
Liebertor?
probably
Thompson?
Zach Thompson. I
Okay.
would say Thompson. And you might, well, Drew Rom also was in the rotation toward the end of last year. So
We're really going down that road again?
I'm just saying, he's a guy that started games for this club a year ago. So I mean, right now, I would say based on who's on that roster, it's Thompson, Rom, or Liebertor.
They just say you can never have too much pitching depth, and then here we go. You never have too much, and here we go into spring training again, where three kind of unproven. And I know you, Dad, you're probably high on if Thompson or Liebertor were in the rotation, you'd probably feel pretty good about that. But I just feel like if you could get one more.
I would like to get one more pitcher. Yes, I would, and because I think it would help. It would help. As I say, my only biggest problem is I hope the addition comes as a free agent, because I just don't think there's the guys that are out there that would upgrade your rotation significantly through trade would cost you more than I'd be willing to trade. Okay, make a trade for a starting pitcher. Well, then you made it. Well, don't trade that guy. You
got to give up somebody to get somebody.
I think the trade piece you wanted was Tyler O'Neill, but clearly that didn't turn into somebody else, because he was the one you thought could have went somewhere but didn't.
Right. I mean, I still think the Cardinals have issues with the roster. I think they have too many outfielders. I think they have too many backup first baseman kind of guys that they're going to be blocked. I mean, at some point, you have to decide, Lucan Baker either has to be on the big league roster or he has to be playing somewhere else. He doesn't need to go back to AAA for some reason. You did make one move with Juan Yepez that kind of got him out of that log jam, but you still got outfielders. You've still got, a guy like, Burleson that we've talked about is probably a big league player, but I don't see him being a regular on this club. And so, I mean, is he blocking somebody else? I mean, there's issues with the roster that I think are clouded that they just have to figure out.
So what's your bench right now then?
Mike and I were talking about this earlier, yeah.
I mean, if you're going to take 13 pitchers, right? This manager and this GM are going to take 13. So you got 5 spots. One of them goes to Herrera. Mm-hmm. One of them probably goes to Burleson because he's your backup first baseman. And then one of them goes to either Carlson, Walker, Newbar, somebody there. Mm-hmm. So you got 2 left.
Well, Gorman / Donovan / one of those guys, right?
That's going to be the DH. So you really got one spot probably, and I would think Palacios is a guy, especially if you want. But then you're carrying 5 outfielders, technically 5.5 if you count Burleson as a part-time outfielder. So where they really have a backup infielder, a guy like Fermin, or maybe Sagasi has a shot at making the ball club as a backup infielder, who play a lot of positions. I think they do have some roster questions. I think the one good thing is that we sit here, the week between Christmas and New Year's, is you still have at least 6 weeks left before spring training starts. So maybe they're not done. Maybe there is another move to be made.
I'm sorry, I shouldn't laugh, but when you said there's the one good thing, I thought you were going to say that Mater is no longer in the system. But
there's still time.
I think he set the record last year for how many times he came back and went. But you're right. I mean,
I think he was DFA 3 times.
Okay, all right, but no, and he did some things at times. Nothing against him, but I just the roster construction is certainly going to be interesting because. Again, you're talking about Burleson, and who they really seem to like. I mean, even going at times last year, wasn't he like a top 100 prospect in baseball still?
Mm-hmm.
And maybe it's still coming. I mean, I don't want to give up on these guys at a young age, but I just haven't really seen it with the defense or with the hitting at a high enough level that I'm ready to guarantee him a spot on the bench this year. But I mean, maybe they're just banking on him being much improved. And I mean, I'm sure you were going to talk about it at some point, but I mean, Mason Wynn too, like. Mm-hmm. We didn't really see. I mean, for as hyped as he was, he didn't really. What did he end up hitting? 170 something. I mean, I don't know what he got up to at the end of the season, but
I'm not going to worry about what he hit at the end of last season, because I think there was 2 reasons for that. Number one, the club was not doing anything. Number two, his track record everywhere he has played is that he struggled offensively the first 6 weeks or so, that he was at that level, and then he gets up to league level or above it.
Okay.
And I also think that just that whole reason I bring him up for the last month of the season was just to acclimate him to the big league. So when he hits ground running this year, he's got that experience. Yeah. Those butterflies already out of him.
And I think when you look at the whole roster from 1 through 9 last year, they all struggled offensively. Mm-hmm. So then Mason Wynn hitting 170 looks out at you because nobody's hitting.
Yeah.
But if Goldie and Arenado are doing what they're supposed to do, his number may not matter as much because you just need him to get on base.
And I do think that giving him the 2 months when your team's in last place, so when he comes into spring training this year, he knows what it's like to go on a big league road trip, to go play in some of these cities, to be a big leaguer, see big league pitching. I do think that was a benefit for him. I don't know if you can 100% pencil him in for sure. I mean, if he struggles in spring, is he still your for sure starting shortstop? Or
Not guaranteed. No, and I
Okay.
think that was one thing I was going to say is that he is probably somebody that's going to be one of the players to watch in spring training. Is he has to? I mean, he has the spot going in. I would say it's his spot to lose more than it's his spot to win. But you do have Edmonds still there as a possibility of, if there were a struggle issue. But speaking of spring training, I want to mention we do have also on the site all of the information about spring training, the hotel information at our spring training hotel, the Homewood Suites on Palm Beach Gardens down on that. Roger, I forgot blanking on the name of the street there, but it's Donald Ross Road. Thank you. So it's a good,
Awesome hotel.
Great place to stay. Our party that we always do every spring for everybody who's been down there in the past will be on March the 7th this year. Our fundraiser for Rainbows for Kids, as well as a little pep rally for STL Sports Page. Always a great time. We'll have a couple of special guests to be announced later for that, so we can get all that information, of course, on the side, as well as the spring training schedule. So even if you can't come at that point of the year, I think everybody, all you guys both would agree that coming down to spring training every year is a great opportunity and a great bucket list item for anybody that has a chance to be there.
You got to hype up the hotel a little bit. The Homewood Suites is legit. Love that. But you can walk to the stadium from there, but they do offer the shuttle. Great buffet breakfast. Still think at least once a week in the evening they have the food as well, and it's just an awesome spot right there. Restaurants all in walking distance. Homewood Suites. Check it out, but some other sponsors of your site and spring training coverage as well.
Yeah, AAA of Missouri Travel of Missouri is one of our big sponsors, as well as, of course, our main hotel sponsor, the Drury Hotels. If you're driving down to Florida, a lot of opportunities to stay at a Drury on the way before you get down to Palm Beach, where there is a Drury Hotel coming in the future down in that area, but it's not there yet. So there's some issues that they're still trying to get everything arranged to build that hotel, but it'll be there at some point in the future. So so be sure to check out all of our other sponsors as well. We appreciate all of their help and all of their support. Two other things going on with the website that I want to mention before we get back into the Cardinal talk that I don't want you to miss. Our annual countdown of the top 7 Cardinal stories of the season is underway. We do one a day here on the week between Christmas and New Year's, getting up to New Year's Eve, where the top story of the year will be revealed, as well as this week we'll repost a link to all of our favorite stories of the year, some of the profiles, some of the feature stories that we've written over the year, so you can catch up on all of those if you happen to miss any of them during the season here later on this week.
Wainwright 200 wins have to be number one. I mean, come on.
We
can't give that away.
Yeah. Secrets. You can have your own.
I'm just trying to think. I mean, you
favorite
said
album.
top 7 stories. I don't know if it's positive, negative, what? Because I mean,
They could be both.
there weren't exactly a lot of great highlights last year for
could be
the
both,
season.
So pay attention. So anyway,
Okay.
Rob Raines joined by BJ Raines and Mike Raines here. We have a special holiday edition of our Cardinal Talk. So as we flip forward to 2024, sitting here the week between Christmas and New Year's, what's your number one concern about the club at this point?
I would say, I guess I got to say pitching, but I would have loved one more bat too. I mean, I just
Getting kind of greedy now, aren't you?
Huh?
Getting kind of greedy.
Hey, my money. I mean, I don't care. I mean, I guess you're expecting guys that bounce back years, hopefully. I mean, but Walker came on at the end. You'd love to see Walker take that next step forward. Newbar, I don't know what the final numbers were, but I don't know if he was quite as good as he was the year before. We'll see. Who's the other outfielder that I'm not thinking of? Carlson's the 4th outfielder. Oh, Edmund, I guess, if Edmund's in center field. I don't know. I mean, you have a lot of guys, a lot of names. I just don't know if you put them all together, it looks pretty good on paper, but I would have felt a little better with one more just established guy in the lineup. I don't know where you put him, though. I mean, I guess you're banking on Brendan Donovan coming back, but if I had to say one, I'd say one more arm. I don't know if you can bank on Mats and Michaelis both being healthy all year and both giving you 30 starts. And I really, nothing against Thompson and those guys that are probably ready at some point here. If you could, one more solid 1 or 2 starter, and this team's good enough. I mean, you get to the postseason with Sonny Gray and some of these guys. I mean, I think you have a chance. I just would really like one more guy. I mean, if all 5 of those guys stay healthy all year, I think you feel pretty good about it. I mean, I don't know if this is taboo to say because I know a lot of Cardinals fans don't like him, but I mean, Josh Hader probably helps your team too as a closer position. I know he's had a up and down time, but you look at last year's numbers and the ERA in particular. I mean, I think a guy like that, I don't know why the Japanese reliever, or was it Korean, the one that went to the Padres. Yeah, I mean, I was surprised how that should have been in the Cardinals' price range. It's an average of like $7 million a year or whatever. I mean, that really surprised me. But I think you need one more solid. I would love one more solid starter, and I would love another back end of the arm bullpen which maybe you get by moving Mats back there and shuffling some things around. But if you got Helsley and you got some of these guys, and you could throw one more marquee reliever in there as well. I mean, you shorten this game to set. They're talking about the starters needing to go longer. They may not if you could get one more dominant club. I mean, is Hader the only main closer type still out there?
Oh, by the free agent,
Yeah.
I think
Did Hicks sign?
Hicks. No, Hicks is not signed either.
Okay.
I think there's still a possibility of him as well.
Okay, but I would love Hader and one more starter, and I think you were easily I don't want to say favorites, but you're right there in the mix in the National League Central for sure.
I think that, as you addressed, the biggest concern to me is the health of that rotation. Because you look at last year, and just the starting pitching, how many innings were filled by guys named Woodford, Liebetor, Rahm, whoever it may have been, right? And so the hope is that Lynn, Gibson, and Sonny Gray can fill that void because of how many innings they pitched last year. You mentioned Helsley. He wasn't there for half the year either,
he missed a
right?
lot of time,
And
yeah.
so is he that solid shutdown closer you need if they can all stay healthy, right?
Sure.
The other concern to me was, I think you look at the defense last year, and that was one of the biggest struggles. Is the starting pitching gave up a lot of contact, but you had a lot of guys playing in positions they shouldn't be playing. Alec Burleson should not be playing left field ever. And how many balls got down and scored that he should not have been there?
Hey, Alec Burleson never climbed a wall, reached for a ball, then realized the ball bounced on the track like Marcelo Zuna did once. So
Regardless, but I'm just saying, I think the other thing you look at in those three pitchers that were added is the strikeout numbers that they've never seen before. And so now all of a sudden you're going to be seeing less guys get on base, which is going to make the difference in the defense too. But if you can stop moving guys around, for example, put Edmund at center field and just leave him.
Correct.
Put Gorman at second base and leave him. And you quit moving where they need to be, they're going to figure it out once they stay there every day. And so then the combination of getting pitchers that can stay healthy and throw strikes and stop walking people.
We've mentioned him a couple times, but I didn't really get your opinion on him. Kyle Gibson is a guy that I know you have a personal relationship with. There's a lot of the charity work that he has done, and he was a guy I know that from the beginning of free agency, you wanted the Cardinals to.
Oh, we've been hearing for 5 years from Mike Raines. Got to get Kyle
absolutely.
Gibson. Need the Cardinals to get Kyle Gibson.
Absolutely. I think that the two, in Lynn and Gibson both are huge clubhouse guys, and I think that's going to play an important role that you don't think about. But Kyle's the type of guy who's going to jump right in there and get involved in the community, get involved with everyone in the clubhouse, and be a great teammate. And I think that's going to go a long way too. And I think that's going to be huge.
And I know Lynn is a guy who, dating back to his first stint with the Cardinals, back when he came up as a rookie, it's so long ago you were still here covering the team.
That's crazy. I don't know who that makes me feel older, Lance Lynn or me. But yeah, when Lance Lynn was a rookie, 2011, end of the season, and then all of 2012, I was working with FoxSportsMidwest.com and covered Lance Lynn some. And so I was trying to think back, and look back at those years. He came up during the 11 season, right, during the year, and then there was number 62, I think, back in those days, and had the bullpen fiasco in the World Series with Tony La Russa. I don't know how Lynn and Zepchinski sound alike. I'll still never know that, but it's crazy to think about. Yeah, Lance Lynn, and he was a guy that definitely seemed like back then was a young guy still. Now I think he's established himself more and. In terms of being that clubhouse guy, and I know he always jokes around with the media, and sometimes isn't always at times, I guess, early was a little short with some of his answers and stuff. But I think he's a quality guy, and he's talked about trying to drop a few pounds and get in good shape and come in and he's only mid. What is he? 30? How long is he? 36.
36.
Okay, so but I mean, he still probably wants to pitch for 3-4 more years, you would think, or a couple of years at least. So. I don't think this is something where he's just taking this money, and I think he wants to prove that he can still pitch, and all these guys do. But I think he wants to, and probably Kyle's in the same boat. But they want to. It's a 1-year deal. I don't know if they would have held out if they would have got more or multiple years. But I think this is a little bit of a chance for them to prove that they still have it and try to get maybe a 2 or 3 year deal if they can, or at least or more lucrative 1 more deal year next year. So. Is Herrera, you mentioned Herrera, by the way, is he for sure the backup catcher?
As of today, yes.
Okay.
The other thing I want to say about Lynn and Gibson, too, is I think there's a huge benefit to being home. Lance Lynn lives in Effingham, and so to be able to be much closer to home for him is going to make a difference. And Kyle lives in Washington, Missouri, met his wife at Mizzou, so something about being in your regular home every night to be able to go home and go to bed and see your kids, I think is going to put some at ease and calm the nerves a little bit too, to just make guys play better.
I think I'm not worried about those guys. I think both those guys are actually probably going to do better than most people think. Both those guys probably will have solid seasons. I know everyone looked at Lance Lynn's ERA and things, and Kyle too. I know get what led. Didn't they both lead the league in hits allowed or something? But Kyle
They also would have led the Cardinals in strikeouts too, though.
Really,
individual pitchers, both. So
okay.
I mean, you got to take a little bit there to think about because.
I will point out one thing that I did see the other day on the internet. And I know you don't always believe everything you see on the internet, but I think this is true. The Cardinals combined salaries for their starting rotation, the 5 starters as of today who will be starting this year, have a starting salary of a little over $62 million, which is a pretty good ballpark figure. The starting rotation for the Dodgers, which of course doesn't have Mr. Ohtani since he won't be pitching this year, $61 million.
Wow.
So.
Well, he's only
on
making $2
paper,
million
they're
anyway, so isn't he making $2 million or whatever anyway? So he's only getting 63 or whatever, even if he was pitching. But I mean,
I think that's a challenge. I think the Cardinals. I think that the Cardinals, especially the pitching rotation and including the bullpen. I mean, they've got a challenge ahead of them. They've got to prove that they can do this. I mean, they're going to have the opportunity, but they've got to go out and do it.
And I know everyone talked about the TV deal and whether or not they were going to lose money from the Bally's Midwest thing, if that was going to affect what they were able to do in terms of the payroll. But I mean, last year was terrible. I mean, last place, or did they finish in last place?
Yes.
Yeah. And I know they're there for most of the year. And then you just think about the crowds and stuff later in the season and some of the booing that was happening and stuff. I mean, people were restless. They want us. They're not used to this. I mean, I'm 38 now. I guess I got to add it up. And I don't remember a time where it was that bad in terms of the booing and the disappointment.
You were about 2 years old the last time.
Okay. I mean, I remember there was some with Ryan Franklin because I know that, and when I was covering the team, there was like some individual players that weren't doing well. Mm-hmm. But in terms of a team and just bad play, and some of those games where you look up and it's 7 or 8-0 in the second inning, and it was really like, for someone that lives in Idaho and plans 3 hours of my day around wanting to watch these games. I mean, there were a lot of times where it was an hour in, I'm like, well, what else can I do tonight? I mean, and also like even just to watch the games, like there were some. I mean, there were some nights where we had a practice or we had something else and I wasn't checking my phone or wasn't doing it like as much as just it wasn't inspired, fun, and it's hard for me to say that as a lifelong like diehard Cardinals fans, but there were nights where I didn't watch the game and I watched the box score later and didn't really care. Like there was no when you're in last place and it just was as bad as it was, and so I think fans are really want to see this team, and I know that John Mozeliak has said this, like they need to get back to winning, playing good baseball. It's one thing if it's a 1-year blip, but if it happens again, then I think you're really, getting into a different, path, I guess, here. So if they had a certain amount of money and they felt like Lynn and, so what was their combined salary? There was about, what, $50 million? Although not this year. This year they backloaded the deal for Gray. So they only spent about, what, $35 million for those 3 starters?
Well, that's correct.
And I guess you could say, okay, so 35 for them, or 1 year of Yamamoto for 30, whatever he got, or 25, or whatever free agents were out there. If you felt like filling 3 spots this way was the best, and I like Sonny Gray, I'm just not sure if he's an ace.
The other question that I have when we look at these 3 new guys that came in, they constantly pitch into the 7th and 8th inning.
Correct.
Well,
they get that chance.
Our manager doesn't like to do that because third time through the lineup, he likes to take them out in 6th inning. So are we going to allow them to pitch longer, to not put so much work on the bullpen, or is he still going to have his hand in the game and third time through got to come out regardless of what they've done everywhere else?
I was watching on YouTube sometimes clips just kind of pop up or whatever with something that your related search or whatever, and the Juan Yepez home run off of who was the lefty on the Phillies in the playoffs, the big lefty that came in, the reliever 2 years ago, was the last time the Cardinals were in the playoffs. Juan Yepez hit the pinch hit home run, 2-run bomb. The place is going absolutely nuts, and you got Michael Kay, and A-Rod on the call, just see ya. It still gives you goosebumps. And then they blew it right after that. That was the blown save and with the finger and all that. And then the next day they lost. I don't remember if that was the day they took Quintana out early, which is what made me think of it. And ever since, that was it. And that was. They still show Albert Pujols when Yepez hits the home run on the sidelines, and you're that close to beating Phillies and beating Wheeler and Nola, and then after that, it so quickly turned into last place last year, and it's just, and when taking him out early is what made me think of that. But it's crazy, like how close.
There are a lot of games last year specifically that I remember calling you or texting you and saying, "Why are we taking him out? What are we doing?" And so the question is, are they going to get that chance?
Yeah. It'll be interesting to find out. So, one more question for everybody, and then we're going to wrap this up with just a couple of quick comments. If you had to pick one player right now who you think will have a breakout, and breakout by being better than he was a year ago, who would you pick? Who would you pick? One player off this current roster that you expect to have a better year this year than they had last year.
Go ahead, Mike.
Kyle Gibson. Everybody says that he led the league in hits last year. I get that. That's fine. But I also think the defense of the Cardinals is better than the defense of the Orioles. However, the Orioles offense continued to make up for that, and it made a big difference. But if you look, his ERA was only, low 4s or high 3s. I don't remember specifically, but for giving up that many hits, he still managed to work out through the jams and get out of it. And so I think he's going to come through in a big way for this team?
I'm going to say Wilson Contreras. I mean, I think he was a guy, we haven't mentioned his name on this entire podcast here, and he was a guy that just had a lot happening with him last year, first year with the team, all the controversy about not being able to catch and getting thrown under the bus by the pitching staff and all that stuff that happened. And maybe he's going to play outfield, and then he's going to DH. They paid all this money for a guy that's only catching a third of the time. I think he's a solid hitter, and I think he showed that with some of the numbers. But I think if he gets now a year to kind of, an off season to take a deep breath here, to work on some things. Yadier Molina is supposed to work with him some in spring training. And I think just Wilson Contreras is going to be in a different place this year. And I think I'm talking combination of defensively and offensively. I think Wilson Contreras could have a big year this year, which I think would help the offense. But I just think that there was a lot going on for him last year, leaving the rival Cubs, coming to the Cardinals, trying to live up to the big deal. And I think the offensive numbers ended up okay, right? I mean, they weren't bad, but I think
second half of the area was pretty good.
Yeah, and so I would say Wilson Contreras for me, but I also think you're hoping for the Walker breakout year. That could certainly, but that seems like kind of a cop out answer to say.
It's going to be my answer, so it's not a cop-out, no.
Certainly, and I'm going to say Lars Nootbaar as well. I mean, there's been a lot of talk about him, and he was kind of thrusted into that. I don't want to say stardom role, but I think earlier than maybe he was ready. He had the good year, and then going into last year, everyone kind of thought huge things from Lars Nootbaar. I remember like Jeff Passan predicting him to hit 30 home runs or whatever. I mean, and so I think he had an okay year, but I think he could certainly be better as well. And he got all the hype in the WBC and with Team Japan and all that. But I think Lars Nootbaar is a guy that doesn't have to worry. They got rid of O'Neill. I think Carlson is clearly the fourth outfielder. If Lars is going to get the starts, 6 out of 7 days and doesn't have to worry about anything, and he's the guy, I think there's more in the tank for Lars Nootbaar as well.
I want to pick Jordan Walker, and I'll do this for a couple of reasons. One is I think that last year was a big learning curve year for him, and I think also he's more comfortable in the outfielder. Is he going to win a Gold Glove? No, but I think he's more comfortable out there, which is going to let him concentrate more on his offensive game. I know he's working hard on that this winter, and I also think having Mason Wynn around here for an entire season his best friend is going to relax him and just make him more comfortable behind the out there on the field. So I look for better results from him. One thing we did last year, what you guys else?
I was just going to say too, going back to the Wilson Contreras comment and going to Jordan Walker in right field, I still think again it's one of those where we need to put guys in their positions and leave them there.
Correct.
We messed Wilson Contreras up by taking him out and blaming him and doing this and putting everything out. Just put him out there, let him catch, let him work the pitchers, and he'll be fine.
And there is a history too of guys coming into a new ball club that first year who struggled with that adjustment period, whether it's a trade or a free agency or whatever. It happened with Goldschmidt, happened with Arenado, it's happened with other guys. So I think they also bank on that, maybe helping him this year too.
Yeah, I know we're ending this and we're moving on to 24, but you look back and 5 games into the season, Tyler O'Neill's effort getting questioned. We mentioned all the other stuff we've talked about with Contreras and that how quickly that was. I mean, it was just a really odd year last year, and you hope if you're a Cardinals fan that it was just a one-off. It's done. It's not going to happen again. All these guys are going to rebound. That Cardinals magic is going to come back, and they'll go on a run this year. But certainly, there's reasons for optimism, but certainly with the way the roster is currently constructed, I think reasons to still be concerned a little bit as well, as we've talked about.
One thing that we did last year, which was a lot of fun, we all met up in Seattle for a game. Our first time we've ever been at that ballpark. I know you and Lori are trying to get to every stadium. You got any new stadiums on your list for this year to try to get to?
Yeah, we were just trying to figure that out the other day to see where we're going to go. We haven't totally figured that out yet.
How many stadiums you up to now?
13, 14, give or take.
You been to Dodger Stadium yet? That could be a nice.
Yeah, that'd be an opening day.
Yeah, that might be a nice.
That's not
nice
cheap
game.
at all, right? Yeah,
as everybody predicted, Yamamoto is going to be pitching. So
that won't be cheap at all. So
Sonny Gray's debut. In
we talked
LA.
about going to Washington this year, and
what's your favorite so far, though?
San Fran,
yeah.
Easily. It's just the layout, the setup there, the view, everything. It's really nice,
How about you?
I think that San Diego is one of my favorite, just because I love the area around San Diego as well, the Gaslamp District and stuff. I think Denver is a cool one as well. I like going to Denver. I have not been to Fenway Park. I've been to the new Yankee Stadium. I thought it was really cool. Went there the first year it opened. Fenway's probably on my bucket list. Wrigley Field, can't go wrong there. But in terms of ones I have not been to that I'd like to see, that's a good question. I've done the tour of Dodger Stadium. I don't know if I've actually been there for a game. A lot of the newer ones, the new Texas one, haven't been to that. The new Houston one.
The new Texas Stadium's awesome. I think that it's indoor, but they did a fantastic job with it. The view's great. The video board's unbelievable. everywhere you sit. So
I
really
think you
great.
were at Dodger Stadium, but you were a little bit too young to
All right,
remember it.
all right,
So.
that counts. But no, I
I thought the park in Seattle was really cool too.
I did too. I liked it. I wish we would have been there on the day when the roof was open. We were only there when the roof was closed. But
Yeah, the roof was neat because it wasn't like a fully enclosed building. It was just like an extra roof, so you could still
Correct.
see outside and get the wind. And it was pouring down rain, and we were fine. But
if I recall, I guess the first 2 days the Cardinals lost. We stayed till Sunday. You guys had to leave, and I think the Cardinals finally got a win on the last day. Yeah, we got to think about that. Find another spot to meet up. That was a lot of fun, and I'm trying to think, man, because we went to San Diego, but you weren't able to come to that one. Yeah, we're out. That's interesting.
Well, hopefully, maybe we'll also hook up at spring training again to everybody out there trying to think about a spring training trip. Check out the Homewood Suites. You can get all that information on our website. We got a whole page dedicated to spring training coverage. And thank you guys for coming in today. Thank you.
We got to get final predictions or something.
All
here. I know the
right.
roster's
Thank our
not done, but
sponsors
is this a
for
playoff
AAA
team?
Missouri.
Is this a playoff team in 2024?
I think they're division champions. I don't know how far
I
they
think
go in the playoffs.
the benefit you have is they're in a bad division, right? And so, like, even as bad as they played last year, they still had a shot in this division. And I don't see anybody that really made any huge moves out there. Now, you still got the Cubs that could make a few moves because there's still a few guys out there, right? Did Bellinger sign anywhere yet?
All the young guys for the Reds?
Um,
Reds don't concern you?
I mean, I think they all played really well last year, but again, they're all young, and it just happened to click at the same year. Can they do that again? Are some of those guys as good as they appeared to play last year? Hard to say, right? I think on paper, this Cardinal lineup is better than the Reds lineup.
But there again, that gets back to the fundamental question about the Cardinals, so we'll end it with this. Do you want, as you construct a ball club for 2024, specifically the St. Louis Cardinals, do you want a team that's good enough to win the division and then, quote, take your chances in the playoffs? Or do you want a team going into the season, you say, this team has the potential to be a World Series champion?
Well, I think what the Cardinals would say is win the division, get in, and see what happens. And but I think a lot of fans would say we want more than that, in my opinion. But
You just cannot have a start like you did last year. You have to come out much stronger.
And this season is very tough. The schedule's
Very tough. Absolutely. That's what I'm saying. You get
who do they have after the Dodgers?
San Diego.
Okay.
Dodgers and the Padres to start right away, and so like you have to go. And if you're not ready, then you could be in a hole quickly. And I know we say in April and May the standings don't matter, but they do.
Sure they do.
In the National League, they absolutely do. So you got to be ready to go April 8th, 7th, whatever that day is.
I did bad co-hosting and I cut you off while you were talking about your sponsors. So
No, it's all right. AAA of Chapel in Missouri will be our main spring training sponsor, as well as the Homewood Suites, as well as our Drury hotel relationship. So be sure to check out all of the sponsors that you see elsewhere on the advertising on the site. That's what allows us to bring all of our content to you totally free. So appreciate everybody who's supported us in the past. This will be year 13 for the STL.
what about covering the Cardinals? What year is this for you? Covering baseball? Come on now.
44.
44 years covering the Cardinals.
Have you
Missouri
got your-
Sports Hall of Famer.
Is
That's
your
the
baseball
best
writers
pops
card
out
for
there.
this year. Have you got that
I
yet?
have not. You don't get those till spring training.
And what number were you last year?
30.
Which means there's only 29 people in baseball.
More
just
senior
covering
baseball
baseball.
writers.
It'll be
than Rod
it'll be
Reigns.
somewhere in the 20s this year. I do
That should
know.
be the
Hope you
lowest
guys.
number of
I hope
any
you guys
writer.
realize how lucky you are having this guy covering the Cardinals. We certainly realize
But-
how lucky it is to have
But
him
I also don't
be
think
our dad, and this has been a lot of fun.
I also don't think people realize he's been covering not just the Cardinals but baseball longer than any other writer currently in St. Louis.
That's true.
So
Yeah.
you can say whatever you want about
And
everybody else. in
he
St.
could be
Louis.
charging
Any
hundreds of
other
dollars
writer
for his
in St.
content.
Louis.
He's giving it to you for free. All right,
Anybody
read
who
his
wants
stuff.
an old age question there, they know where to ask.
Go check out all the sponsors. Support the
Thanks to
sponsors.
BJ
Support
Raines.
this guy.
Thanks to
Free
Mike
content.
Raines, Rob Raines,
The Hall of
Thank
Famer.
you for checking out our special edition STL Cardinals podcast. We'll be back with you again soon. Thanks everybody for paying attention and for joining us today.